Admiral Zixtel of the Galactic Alliance stared at the holographic display with all four of his eyes, his tentacles twitching in despair. The Ravager swarm had already consumed 3 solar systems, and their unstoppable advance threatened the entire Orion arm. The finest warriors of 17 different species had failed to halt their progress. The most advanced weapons in the known galaxy had barely scratched their ships. "We have one option left," his second-in-command, Commander Varexa, said quietly, though many on the council oppose it. Zixtel knew exactly what she meant: the humans, the newest and most controversial members of the Alliance. Many considered them too primitive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. But they had also done the impossible before. "Send the call," he ordered. "Get me their commander." Within hours, a small human fleet arrived through the jump gate. Their ships looked crude compared to the sleek vessels of other Alliance species, all sharp angles and exposed armor plates, more akin to mobile fortresses than proper spacecraft. The human commander, Sarah Chen, appeared on his view screen. She looked so fragile with only 2 eyes and no protective exoskeleton, yet there was something in her expression that made even Zixtel feel like prey. "You called for assistance, Admiral." Her tone was casual, as if they weren't facing the greatest threat in recorded history. "The Ravagers have adapted to every weapon and strategy we deployed. Their neural network learns and evolves with each engagement. We can't." "You're fighting them wrong," Chen interrupted, bringing up tactical displays. "You're treating this like a normal war." "It's not. It's pest control." The Admiral's tentacles curled in confusion. "Explain." "The Ravagers are basically space locusts, a hive mind swarm that strips systems bare. But they're still biological. And what do you do with locusts? You don't just shoot them. You disrupt their swarm patterns. You break their communication. You make the environment hostile." She gestured to her ships. "We've modified our vessel's electromagnetic output to match the frequency of their neural network. We're going to give them the equivalent of a massive migraine. Then, while they're disoriented, we'll introduce our own signal into their network." "You can do that?" Varexa asked, mandibles clicking in surprise. Shen smiled. "We've been dealing with computer viruses since before we had spaceflight. Trust me, we know how to break complex systems." The human fleet moved into position, their formation seemingly random to Alliance tactical computers. But as they activated their modified EM arrays, the effect on the Ravager swarm was immediate. The perfectly coordinated movements became erratic. Ships collided with each other. The swarm began to fragment. "Now for Phase 2, Chen announced. "We're deploying our cyber warfare package. Fair warning, this might look a bit messy." The humans launched what appeared to be primitive nuclear weapons. The Alliance commanders watched in horror, knowing such crude devices would be useless against Ravager shields. But these weren't normal nukes. They were delivery systems for something far more insidious. The detonations created electromagnetic pulses that carried complex code directly into the Ravager's neural network. The effect was devastating. The swarm didn't just break apart, it turned on itself. Ships began firing on each other, their coordination completely shattered. "What did you do?" Zixtel asked, amazed. "We gave them conflicting priorities," Chen explained. "It's like introducing multiple queen bees into a hive. Now each ship thinks it's in charge, and that the others are threats. Their own adaptive programming is working against them." The battle was over in hours. The mighty Ravager swarm, terror of the galaxy, reduced to scattered fragments by a handful of human ships using modified civilian technology. Later, at the victory celebration, Admiral Zixtel approached Commander Chen. "How did you know this would work?" She shrugged. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's that we've spent our entire history finding ways to break things. When we look at a perfect system, we don't see its power, we see its vulnerabilities. We don't just think outside the box. We set the box on fire and use the ashes to write a manual on box burning." The Admiral's translator struggled with the idiom, but he understood the sentiment. Humans weren't just warriors or engineers. They were chaos theorists, master of entropy, experts in turning order into productive disorder. "The Council will want to know if you can teach this approach to other Alliance species," he said. Chen laughed. "We can try, But it's not just about tactics, it's about perspective. Humans don't just solve problems. We break them into smaller problems, then solve those in ways the original problem never expected. It's who we are. As he watched the human commander rejoin her crew, Admiral Zixtel realized something profound. The Alliance had feared humanity's unpredictability, their tendency to ignore conventional wisdom, their habit of finding unconventional solutions. But those weren't bugs in their programming, they were features. In a galaxy of order and protocol, sometimes you needed a species that specialized in controlled chaos. He made a note in his report: when facing an impossible problem, don't just call in the humans, call them first. They won't just think outside the box, they'll convince the box it never wanted to be a box in the first place. The Ravager threat was ended, but Zixtel knew this wouldn't be the last time the Alliance faced an impossible challenge, and now he knew exactly who to call when that happened. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the most advanced or elegant one. It was the one that turned the enemy's strengths into weaknesses, that introduced just enough chaos to shatter the perfect plan. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy: the art of productive destruction, the science of calculated disorder, and the simple truth that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to break it into smaller problems until they solve themselves. In the years that followed, "call the humans" became a common phrase in Alliance military circles. It wasn't always meant as a compliment, but it was always said with respect, because when the battle seemed lost, when conventional wisdom failed, when the perfect enemy seemed unbeatable, that was when you needed a species that specialized in imperfection, in unconventional wisdom, in turning an enemy's perfection into their greatest weakness. That was when you called in the humans.